There's a story told by Mr. Elie Wiesel of a young boy growing up in a town, and he sees that there's this gentleman going all day long around the streets with big signs that says, "Do not steal, behave properly, be nice, do not cheat." And he watches him go day to day with these big signs, screaming their slogans. And he grows up, leaves the town, comes back a couple years later. It's 20 years later, and he still sees the same man, a little bit older, and he's still with the signs. So he stops him on the street. He says, "Listen, I know the town that I grew up in was not a pleasant town. In fact, most of the people were evil. They were mean. They were not nice. But yet I see you for the last 20 years trying to make these changes, and yet to no avail. So what keeps you going? For 20 years, 5 years, 10 years, you see you're not having any influence. Stop." And he responds to the now young adult. He says, "For the first 10 years, I thought I would change the town. But then the next 10 years, I kept screaming those slogans so that the town would not change me." This Torah portion, we're introduced to the very first Jew, Abraham, and he's called Ivri, the Hebrew. But Ivri also means the other side of the Euphrates, or the other side ideologically of everyone else. But he never stopped screaming monotheism, belief in one God, purpose in the world, purpose of self-governance. And he would not stop screaming. I imagine, if I can take a poetic license, that maybe he was screaming for two reasons. One, to influence others, but also that others would not influence him. And I think this is an important message for the Jewish people today, and for everyone in humanity. The world seems to be simply against logic, simply against what's right over wrong. The world seems to be somehow gathered together to promote the atrocities that are being perpetrated by the guilty over the innocent. And so, can we win this war? Can we win this PR machine? So I think there's an important message. Yes, we have to keep trying and trying and trying until the world hears these words of truth. But on the other hand, let's never stop, because we don't want the world to convince us. We must always know the truth in our hearts, for our families, and no matter how much commotion, how much craziness is simply happening outside our university campuses, outside our windows, on the streets of major cities. Let's keep screaming so that we will continuously feel committed to what's right over wrong. And like the first Jew, we have the promise of God that the land will remain eternally ours, and that ultimately good will triumph over evil. Have a great Shabbos.